Ever since I moved, I've been trying to decide where I want to film videos in this house, where my little spot is going to be, and I just can't make up my mind. So this is my new location. I hope you like the background. I'm really trying to go for an aesthetic on my channel, and it's difficult when I am picky but not willing to spend money on lighting equipment and expensive gear and everything. So yeah, the struggle is real. I've also decided that I don't like this shirt anymore. I put it on and it feels like it's shrunk, which is weird because I've lost weight since I got it, and I don't like it anymore, but I'm gonna wear it anyway for this video because I already have it on and I've wasted too much time trying to get this thing ready as it is. So anyway, not to complain about everything. Hi, welcome. I thought it would be fun to do a video about my top 5 favorite conspiracy theories. I'm not really a conspiracy theorist. I don't believe in conspiracy theories necessarily. While I do think that truth is stranger than fiction, the majority of the conspiracy theories out there are they're way too out there, and to be honest, I think the majority of the time conspiracy theories are a result of the human brain not knowing a whole story, and so piecing in details and just kind of completely going off the reservation. But that doesn't mean they aren't fun to talk about and interesting and worth speculation. So I have 5 that we're gonna go over. They're laid out in no particular order. I wasn't prepared for the rabbit hole that I went down with this video, so much so that I already have 2 pages worth of notes for my next video, which is not really necessarily related to a conspiracy theory per se, but it kind of stems from that whole thing, and I wouldn't have even stumbled into it if not for the preparation for this video. So stay tuned for that because that should be pretty interesting. Yeah, we'll start at the top and work our way down, and I hope you enjoy it. So the first conspiracy theory that I want to talk about, and I've got my notes here of course, is the Denver International Airport being a hub for the Illuminati. Now, I've actually been to the Denver International Airport. I flew out of there once a long time ago, and there were 3 things that stood out to me about the airport. The first was that freaky ass horse, the giant blue metal horse that's outside, and it's impossible to miss. It really did give me the heebie-jeebies. The second was the murals everywhere. The place is covered in murals and they're really detailed. And then the third, and this is just a funny random thing, was how little time I spent in the TSA line. I thought I got through there really quickly. So shout out to Denver, I guess they're doing something right. And if it's because of the Illuminati, then that's cool too, I guess. I'm sure if I were an Illuminati official, I probably wouldn't want to be standing around in my socks in a line for hours. So anyway, people do believe that the Denver International Airport is a hub for the Illuminati, and there's a couple of reasons for this, but most of them revolve around the murals. So there's a mural somewhere in this airport. I didn't see it when I was there, but supposedly depicts the Masonic Square, a compass rose, and the inscription, "People of Colorado in 2094. And allegedly there are symbols of Freemasonry and the Illuminati throughout, so people figure, well, it must be a hub for them because look at all their stuff everywhere, if you can find it. And then also there are underground tunnels, and these tunnels actually exist. This isn't like a myth or a legend or anything like that. I read somewhere something to the extent of that when they were building the airport, they had a plan in place for one thing, but then something happened and they scrapped those plans, so now there's like tunnels underneath the airport, or maybe they still use them. I don't exactly know, but there are tunnels there, but people think that these tunnels lead to a top secret underground facility for the Illuminati. And there's also some freaky stuff in there about like population control and, you know, all that stuff that goes along with the Illuminati. If you follow it down the rabbit hole long enough, it gets really weird and out there. I didn't want to spend too much time on it just because I wanted to pick through and find the little things that were interesting. I thought the bit about people of Colorado in 2094 was interesting. Even if you don't think that the Illuminati own this airport, that blue horse is still creepy and definitely gives that place enough attention. It's huge, and it killed the person who was creating it, which is not great. And it's also very anatomically correct, and it's like in your face and very difficult to miss. So anyway, it's not a great looking sculpture. I don't like it. I think it's creepy and weird, and people think it represents like Lucifer or something like that, and of course that's just Satanism and like the occult and everything, just part and parcel with the whole Illuminati thing. So of course the whole place is set up to be the subject of somebody's conspiracy theory. So of course the people that work there, the people that own it, deny all of those claims. I would probably deny it too, but it's interesting, and there you go. Draw your own conclusions. The fourth conspiracy theory is the Mandela Effect. And this isn't really necessarily a conspiracy theory as it is a phenomenon that occurs with thousands of people. It's happened to me, and it's probably happened to you. If you haven't heard about it before, prepare to get your mind blown. But basically, first, the multiverse theory is this theory in physics that postulates that our Earth is one of many in a multiverse. Go figure. And basically, if time is on a flat plane, the way that physics suggests that it is, if you look far enough, eventually you will find another you, or even multiple yous in multiple universes, exactly like ours, but just a little bit different. And the reason that this comes into play with the Mandela Effect is because the Mandela Effect is this phenomenon that occurs where a whole bunch of people will remember an event that either didn't happen at all or is inaccurate in some way. A couple of really good examples of this are in the Star Wars movie where Darth Vader confronts Luke and they're like in that tower thing. Most people, myself included, remember Darth Vader saying, "Luke, I am your father." I would have bet my life that that was what he said. But what he actually says is,
"No, I am your father."
But most people don't remember it that way. Another example is there are these cartoon books that we always had around growing up about this family of bears, like a very wholesome, good family values, positive stuff, like that kind of thing. And they are called the Berenstain Bears. And most people, myself included, remember it being spelled Baron, S-T-E-I-N, but it's actually Baron, S-T-A-I-N. And I do not remember it that way. I have gone back and checked so many times, but it was never S-T-E-I-N. It's always been S-T-A-I-N. And the Mandela Effect was coined because a lot of people remember the South African leader Mandela dying in prison, when in fact he didn't die in prison at all. He survived and died many years later outside. The reason I bring this up and the reason it's interesting to me is because I am fascinated by physics, and I'm fascinated by the concept of a multiverse, by the multiverse theory. I've experienced the Mandela Effect before, like so many people have, and the idea that it's a result not of some boring scientific explanation, but because of our world brushing with another version of our world and exchanging information. Just, I don't know, it kind of freaks me out a little bit, but it like kind of excites me at the same time. So I think it's a lot of fun to think about. This next one is something that I had already known about before. I actually watched a movie about it last year sometime on Amazon Prime, but I don't even remember what it was called, and it was really long and boring. But it's about the CIA and their mind control program that they were doing back in the 50s and 60s, known as MK Ultra. This isn't really a conspiracy theory, it actually happened, and it's a pretty unethical and chilling bit of history that a lot of people don't seem to be aware of. Stuart had never even heard of it. I blew his mind when I told him about it. It's definitely a dark spot in the CIA's history, and very damning because it happened back in the CIA's infancy. The CIA was founded back in like the 50s, and the gentleman who was put in charge of it was this Alan W. Dulles character, and although he condemned a lot of the Soviet Union's methods for dealing with prisoners of war, their methods for extracting information, he actually had a plan to try to gain the upper hand. There was a lot happening politically globally at this time. The Korean War was about to kick off, tensions were really high. The United States government was very vested in trying to get the upper hand, as it were, in interrogation techniques, for lack of a better word. And so MK Ultra began, which was basically a very controversial behavior modification experiment conducted using everything from electroshock to radiation to drugs and toxins. And the reason this was interesting to me and the reason it kind of stood out to me was because one of the substances that they worked with was LSD, because of the fact that LSD makes a person much more relaxed and more likely to divulge information that they probably otherwise would not be. The subjects of these tests included everyone from voluntary participants, US soldiers, which kind of freaked me out to read that because being in the military, it's not fun to think that someone would think that they could experiment on me, and I really hope these soldiers knew what they were getting themselves into. Sexual psychopaths, I don't know what that means or what they were doing with them, and boys from a school for the mentally impaired, which is really sad. So anyway, this is not a great story, not a happy thing, and I definitely think it's important for people to be aware of it because it's a really good example of what happens when people think that they can break the rules to get their way and mistreat human beings to do it. There are first-hand accounts from people who were participants in this experiment, this MK Ultra, and they are absolutely chilling. There are stories where people in the CIA would slip their coworkers LSD, like in drinks and stuff, and so these people would be tripping balls on LSD, not even aware that they had been given anything. And the people who had given it to them would just kind of like step back and like watch and see how they reacted to it and like what they did. It's really crazy stuff like that. There's one particular story that I found towards the end of this whole MK Ultra thing, which spanned a couple of decades, and it was the weirdest, to be sure. Basically, the CIA got this house in San Francisco. They dressed up a room to be very alluring and sexy, and they would use sex workers to lure unsuspecting Johns into the room, be slipped LSD, the men, and then there would be a two-way mirror behind which the CIA director, this Duels character, would watch to see how best they could extract information from people when in that compromised situation. I guess I can see how something like that would be useful. I mean, if you think about like spy movies and stuff, there's always that element of sexuality thrown in there to where, you know, they're using that, some characters using that to get information from somebody, but I don't know, something about it it makes me feel really icky. And I think the part of it that makes it the worst is in this particular article that I read, which I will link in the description of this video, there's a quote, and it says that unsurprisingly, much of White's actions, White being one of the characters that were helping out with this whole experiment, were driven by pure voyeurism. Quote, "I toiled wholeheartedly in the vineyards because it was fun. White later said, "Where else could a red-blooded American boy lie, kill, cheat, steal, rape, and pillage with the sanction and blessing of the All-Highest?" Yeah, not great. Definitely not an ethical, awesome thing for the CIA to be doing. I mean, I'm not shocked. They are a secret service for a reason. They have a vested interest in helping the United States get the upper hand when it comes to global conflicts, global issues. I mean, I'm not really surprised that they would do something like this. It doesn't make me happy, but I think it's really sad that they were not only targeting people who were completely unaware, their own co-workers, but they were also targeting people who were mentally compromised, like the boys in the school. I can't imagine who signed off on this thing. I don't think that it was something that was really popular, and definitely something that they tried to keep under wraps, but essentially what ended up happening back in the early 60s, word of this experiment MK Ultra reached ears of the staff in the Inspector General's office, and they shut it down because it was so unethical. That was the end of MK Ultra, and rightfully so. But I can't help feeling that probably wasn't the end of the CIA's mind control experiments, and I wouldn't be surprised if they continued just in a slightly different strain with the same sort of concept and the same goals in mind, because they got a taste of it and realized how effective it was. So anyway, I'll link the article for this whole MK Ultra thing in the description. It's pretty sickening, but I definitely recommend reading it because it's interesting, and it's a part of history that a lot of people don't seem to know, and I think it's important to know these kinds of things. So go and check that out if you are curious. The second conspiracy theory is aliens. What kind of conspiracy theory video would this be if I didn't talk about aliens at least at some point? So, fun fact about me, I was absolutely fascinated by aliens growing up. Aliens, UFOs, all that stuff. I read all the books that I could find on it. I had a timeline that I had made like on paper in my bedroom with like the earliest recorded UFO sighting to the most recent. I was really into it and I wanted to see a UFO and all that stuff. Like I was into aliens and UFOs to the extreme. So of course I had to throw this in here because I think it's really funny, really interesting. I've seen like all of the History Channel documentaries and like Netflix specials and everything about aliens because I still think it's kind of fun. But the part of it that I want to focus on here is aliens, Area 51, and government cover-ups. I definitely believe that there is extraterrestrial life out there. I think it's ridiculous to think that we are the only planet that can support life anywhere in the universe, anywhere in the cosmos. Just because we haven't met them yet or aren't aware of them yet doesn't mean that they aren't out there. And I think that there are other people who have a little bit more information than even I do, and that is because even though the government denies and denies and denies that there is any such thing as aliens or UFOs, that they are spending any time thinking about them, anything like that, they have admitted to having a program where they study anomalous aerospace threats, which is obviously UFOs. I mean, come on. They spend $22 million annually on that program, which is a whole lot of money to be spending for something that you're denying even exists in the first place. So I think that that's interesting. Anomalous aerospace threats, what in the world could that possibly be other than UFOs? And $22 million, that's an awful lot of money to be spending. That's all I'm saying. And it just seems to me that for there not being any aliens, the government spends a lot of time denying that there's not aliens. Some people truly believe that there's no possibility that there's any life other than us anywhere out there floating around. I think that's a pretty arrogant perspective to take. I found an interesting statistic in all of this that said that 68% of Americans think that the government hides the existence of aliens and UFOs. So that's more than half of everybody in the United States. And I would honestly have to kind of put myself in that category. I don't necessarily think that there are little gray men running around in saucers, flying saucers, you know, landing in people's backyards and stuff. I think probably the truth is a little bit more outlandish than that. But I think that there are probably people that know things that they're not telling anyone. And again, I just keep coming back to that $22 million. That is just so much money. So we are down to our last conspiracy theory for this video. I had a really hard time narrowing down which one I wanted to do for my fifth. I had a few different options, but ultimately I decided to go with something a little bit less popular maybe than all the other standard conspiracy theories, and that is the Vatican's secret archives, aka Archivum Secretum Apostolicum Vaticanum. I used to take Latin, but it was a long time ago. The Vatican in Rome, Italy, has a library, a huge library, and part of this library is secret, meaning that the average Joe can't walk in there and just take a look around. In fact, you have to request specifically what it is you're wanting to see in that library, so if you don't know what's already in there, you can't see it. So there'd be no way for anybody to just go in there and wander around. There are 5 miles of this secret archive alleged to contain 12 centuries worth of text and documentation. An express permission must be obtained to enter, and then only to view very specific documents. Supposedly, people believe within these archives there's a whole bunch of secret, damning information that would really hurt the Catholic Church's cause. The Catholic Church believes, most Christians believe, that Jesus Christ was the Son of God, that he was, you know, basically one of a kind, that he had no descendants, no children, anything like that. But some people believe that there is actually proof to the contrary. There's a really famous movie and book, The Da Vinci Code, that goes into all of that. So if there was information like that, that would be pretty damning for the Catholic Church and really kind of rock everyone's world who believes that he is the Son of God. And, you know, I even read something saying that some people believe there's proof in the archives that the whole concept of Jesus Christ as a whole is a complete and total hoax, and that the Catholic Church is hiding that. don't know that I necessarily believe that, but some people do, that the Pope was conspiring with aliens. I don't know where that comes from, but I did see that some people think that he's conspiring with them to basically have everyone implanted with mind control devices. Again, I don't know why. And then details of the apocalypse as detailed to the child visionaries at Fatima. Basically, there's this group of, I think, 3 children in Fatima who were visited by the Virgin Mary, and she told them a whole bunch of information about a whole bunch of stuff, including the end times, and a lot of that information is still top secret. Supposedly it was released to the public back in like 2000, but some people think that it wasn't actually the full extent of the information, and the Pope withheld some of it. I don't know why you would want to know details of the apocalypse. I don't know why people are like itching to have that information, why you would want to know that. That seems really upsetting information. I don't want to know when the world is gonna end, but I guess some people just like to torture themselves. And then a time travel device known as the chronovisor. So there was some dude back in the day who built this time travel thing that was able to go back in time and allow you to take pictures of historic events. And supposedly this guy went back and took pictures of the crucifixion and a whole bunch of other really key moments in the life of Jesus. And supposedly this thing is in those archives, presumably for the Pope to use to ferry himself about through time and space. The Vatican claims that this library contains just a lot of boring documents about legal stuff and historical information and that kind of thing, and it's not really anything nefarious or crazy, but of course they wouldn't honestly say if there was something like that in there, because then they'd have everybody and their brother banging at their library doors wanting to get inside and learn all of the secrets. So obviously they wouldn't admit to something like that. Do I think that all of this information is in that library? Probably not. It seems kind of just a little bit too out there, a little bit too weird, to be honest, but I'm sure there's stuff in there that if you saw it would really like kind of blow your mind a little bit and make you rethink a lot of the things that you knew, particularly if you're a Catholic or a Christian. Like I said, truth is stranger than fiction, and there's a lot that we don't know that if we did would probably really change our perception of reality and the way that we view the world. So take it with a grain of salt. So that is basically it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I will put some links to some of the articles that I used for my notes in this video down in the description. Go and check those out if you're interested. If there's a conspiracy theory that you find particularly fascinating that I didn't mention, feel free to mention it in the comments below. I am always interested in the kind of like fringe ones out there, and that is a little bit of an Easter egg for my next video that I'll be doing, so stay tuned for that, because it's definitely fringe, something that I had never even heard of before, and I think it'll kind of really make you sit back and just go, huh. Stay tuned for that. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I really appreciate it. Leave a comment if you would like to, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you again soon for the next video.